All right, welcome to the Freedom to Draw Unsolved Mysteries. This is your host, John Krupa, and we have an unexplained death from New Jersey today. This episode is about Sigrid Stevenson, and Sigrid Stevenson's case was just featured on the new Unsolved Mysteries, and I never heard of it, and I just got captivated by it. It's from 1977. The Netflix series is a continuation of the popular true crime series that ran from 87 to 2010 and follows a similar format, although each episode focuses solely on a mystery rather than presenting several different stories. So Sigrid Stevenson was found dead on stage at Trenton State College. And it's called something else now. They changed their names a bunch of different times. We are going to draw. This is Sigrid Stevenson right here. We're going to draw her. I'm going to tell you about her all while drawing her. I'll tell you about her case on this episode of Freedom to Draw Unsolved Mysteries. So, an urban legend says her ghost haunts the college. But one thing I do not like about this case is that they turned this poor young woman's murder into a ghost tale now. That's what they... And they haven't had any proper memorials to this poor young lady that just got her life snuffed away from her brutally, I might add. And now it's like a punchline for a joke that she's haunts the hall where she played the piano. And I'm not a fan of that. Sigrid Stevenson was a graduate student at Trenton State College at the time of her murder. On the evening of September 4th, 1977, a security guard noticed a bike chained up outside of Kendall Hall. This was unusual because classes had not started yet, and students at the time did not routinely chain their bicycles up outside school buildings, especially on Sunday night. Thus, the security guard investigated and was met with the gruesome sight of Stevenson's naked body lying on the stage in a pool of blood. She had been handcuffed and, according to the Netflix show, gagged with her own blouse and was wrapped in a piano cover. That final detail has been the subject of conflicting reports. Yeah, some reports say that she was wrapped in a piano cover, and that piano cover came from the other hall, which was more secure than the hall she was found in, and they are wondering how the hell she got that piano cover to the Kendall Hall. That piano cover was supposed to be in a neighboring hall. I think it was called Blair Hall, and that was more secure than Kendall Hall, and they're trying to figure out how the hell she got that piano cover to Kendall Hall, and then how the hell it got wrapped around her. These are conflicting reports too. There's a lot of conflicting reports in this case. Note, Stevenson's body had been placed under a tarp usually used to cover the piano after the murder. Stephenson was determined to have been bludgeoned to death after being sexually assaulted, but there were no witnesses and no one came forward with any information. So it was nearly impossible for the police to figure out what had happened to her. The technology did not exist to do DNA testing, and the case went cold. Those students claimed to have seen Sigrid's ghost in the years since, and some theorized she was haunting the theater because she had loved to play the piano so much when she was alive. Now that may be true, but I just don't like the popularization of that she's a ghost now and she haunts Kendall Hall, and all the students that go there, they don't know the reality of her story. And I think this show is going to show you the reality that it's not just some ghost story. This poor girl her life was taken. It seemed like doing the thing she loved the most, which was playing the piano. It seems that someone just snuck up on her and did her in and had no remorse. It just got way out of hand because of the brutality of the whole thing.
Motion detected at the front door.
They said that you couldn't even recognize her face. You just heard my security system right there. Stephenson had been hiking through Nova Scotia that summer, and when she arrived on campus on September 2nd, her room was not accessible as the people she was staying with were on vacation. And this was a firefighter's family, not too far from the college, but she had stayed with a professor before that, and something went wrong with that arrangement, and I do not know. There's no reports of how that went wrong, but it went wrong. Something went wrong with that arrangement, and she had to seek other living arrangements. And so for this night, she was left without access to a house. Thus, she decided to crash in Kendall Hall. So when you're young and you think you're bulletproof, you do stuff like that, especially when she was 24. You think you're bulletproof. You know, I'll just crash at this place and wake up early and I can play my music before the guards come and nothing's gonna happen to me. But boy, was she wrong. She was sleeping in the theater's green room on September 3rd when students performing in a play arrived and thus had to move. However, she stayed at the hall and attended that play. So yeah, there are accounts of one student inviting her to see that play, which was, I think it was called JB, and it was a modernized version of the classic Bible, Book of Job. So they modernized the Book of Job. They put it on stage. People seemed to like it. It was popular. Kendall Hall was the logical place for Stevenson to stay until she could access permanent housing. Piano was her first love, so staying in a building that had one available for her to play whenever she wished would have been a dream come true for her. Stevenson tended to keep to herself, so she likely did not have other friends she could stay with while she waited for her host family to return from their vacation, and after hiking all summer, squatting in an empty building probably didn't seem unusual to her. So it didn't seem that unusual for her, but hold on there now. Before we go any further, Stevenson was quoted on being weird by some of her professors. Some even said that she was more than weird, she was peculiar. But then some also said that she was just a little eccentric because she was heavily into the arts. So there's conflicting evidence there of what she was like outside of playing the piano. And also the hall that she was crashing in, once everything shut down, it was shut down. You had to have keys and you had to have knowledge of the building. You had to basically work there to get those lights back on. So there was only a red light that the one guard said that was the only thing on when he found the body. And I would assume, guessing, this is just a guess, that red light was on when everything shut down. So in order to play the piano, she had to have a light on, and I don't think she knew how to turn the lights on because it wasn't easy. It was a big hall, a lot of switches to flip on. There was lighting technicians in the play that had supposedly gone home. But if they needed lighting technicians, then that means it wasn't just you go in and you flip a switch. I mean, you had to know your way around that hall, and you had to know where the electrical boxes were, because it was huge. Like, so that's part of the mystery. Like, how did she play the piano with just that red light on? She had to have the lights turned on or something. Stevenson's presence there has helped establish a timeline for the murder. She was last seen alive the evening before the students in the play reported that she was friendly and in good spirits, but that her mood changed later, that she reported having an argument with a man. The play and her interactions with students suggest that she was killed sometime after the play ended and everyone else left, but she was not found for an additional 24 hours. So September 2nd, Stephenson arrives on campus, decides to squat at Kendall Hall. September 3rd, 1977, some students participating in the play discover Stephenson. They report having last seen her around 11:30 p.m. September 3rd, 1977, after the students leave, someone attacks Stephenson while she is playing the piano, leading to her murder. September 4th, 1977, a security guard discovers Stephenson's naked body on the stage by the piano. So it's either someone attacked her or she did it herself. I can't see someone like bludgeoning themselves that brutally. by themselves, just doing that. So were there any suspects in Sigrid Stevenson's death? Police initially suspected a member of law enforcement, but this was never proven. There were few suspects when the murder was first discovered. Ewing police quickly learned that Stephenson had illegally squatted in many buildings on campus while attending the college, and that the police officers were constantly chasing her away from places she wasn't supposed to be in. Additionally, she had been bound using handcuffs before her death. These two facts led Ewing police to suspect she had been raped and killed by a member of law enforcement, but were never able to conclusively identify the suspect. Also, in the show, they point to janitors might have been the culprit, because the janitor had access to all the keys and whatnot. The janitor had access to the keys to get the piano cover from the other hall. The janitor had access to get into the Kendall Hall. The janitor may have had a relationship with Sigrid, and the janitor probably knew how to turn the lights on and everything too, because when you're cleaning up, you got to be able to see. So whoever the janitor was probably was very familiar with the lighting system and was able to turn the lights on for Sigrid. Could have been like a scenario where I'm going to get my work done, and when I leave, I'm just going to say I didn't see you here. And so and then some kind of foul play could have happened after that sequence of events. Police also initially suspected a student named Chuck, who had been one of the people participating in the play on September 3rd. Chuck had been playing a police officer and thus would have had handcuffs on him as a prop, and Stephenson had a playbill in her possession with his name circled and a note saying he was a nice guy who gave her a beer. However, Chuck passed the polygraph exam, which seemed at the time to rule him out as a suspect. But in 2016, posthumous DNA testing on Chuck, which they got a swab from his brother because he had passed away, but they got a DNA swab from his brother. Chuck was ruled out after the DNA testing. Definitely ruled out as a suspect, so he did not do it. So since then, have there been any updates on Sigrid Stevenson's murder? Unsolved Mystery revealed the identities of some new suspects. Unsolved Mysteries focused on some new suspects that had not been considered during the original investigation. One promising suspect is a maintenance man who worked for the college at the time and had keys to the building. Stephenson had his phone number among her possessions. He also was fired shortly after the murder for unknown reasons. Some people speculate that he had substance abuse problems. There was conflicting reports saying that he had substance abuse problems. That's why he got fired. He also was fired shortly after the murder for unknown reasons, and thus had never been asked by police to take the polygraph. Similarly, an employee who was in charge of lighting at the theater would have had a set of keys and could have turned the lights out during or after Stevenson's murder. By dedicating an episode to Stevenson's death, Unsolved Mystery hopes to publicize her murder in a way that was not possible in 77 and provide a platform for anybody who has information to come forward. And that's the same with this show. So if you have information, please come forward. Although no new information has surfaced yet, Unsolved Mysteries' legacy is one of solving cold cases with the help of the public. By dedicating an episode to this, they hope to publicize her case. I also listened to Trace Evidence, which is a good podcast about cold cases. They had something in there that Unsolved Mysteries didn't even touch upon, and that is somebody was reported, I want to say, three to 5 days later, and they were about 14 yards away from where Sigrid was murdered. They were caught trying to break into a young girl's student housing, and the young girl came upon him, and he started violently beating her, and the young girl managed to get away from him and call the police, and the suspect was I'm not sure if he was caught and questioned. Yeah, I think he was caught and questioned, and I believe his name was Chuck also, but that would be someone that I would look into too. This person that 3 to 5 days later was involved in a violent attempt of a crime. I'm not positive on what happened afterwards, but that's another interesting part of Sigrid's case. I keep calling her Siegfried. It's Sigrid. But this girl was into the arts. You know, she didn't follow the norms of society. They even speculated that maybe if she was around living today, that she would be on the spectrum of like autism. She was socially awkward. People said she was weird, stuff like that, but definitely did not deserve the violent, brutal slaying that she received. And the reports seem to go on about that, how brutal it was. They, for some reason. So that pretty much does it for Sigrid Stevenson's murder. Like I said, if you have any information on this case, please come forward by contacting the New Jersey authorities. That's where it happened. They said this was the most violent, brutal slaying in New Jersey law, New Jersey's history. And just in case everybody do have a sneaking suspicion that this does sound like a Bundy type murder, I don't believe Ted Bundy was around in 77. September 4th, Well, September 4th, Bundy was escaping and re-escaping jail. In June, Bundy escaped jail in Colorado, and he got recaptured in June. Okay, so Bundy got recaptured in June of 77. This happened in September 4th of 1977. Bundy escapes again in December of 1977. So this was not Ted Bundy that did this. I have a timeline of Bundy's comings and goings, so we can rule out Bundy, even though that's a good guess, but this was not Ted Bundy. Okay, that does it for this episode. Peace out, true believers.